This combination of the Tilly morphing into the Madison has allowed our interdependent partnership to achieve our shared vision. So we both enjoy a rewarding relationship while both doing meaningful and fulfilling work.
Welcome to the Get Invested podcast, where we share great conversations with experts from all walks of life to uncover their secret know-how and where they invest their time, their skills and their money, and the benefits that this has created. You see, the truth is that everyone invests. Every minute of every day, we're investing our time, our skills, our energy and our money in something. Some of us are investing consciously, some unconsciously, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad, and sometimes for no impact. Get Invested will help you to start living by design, not by default. I'm going to help you to make it happen, not let it happen. You will hear the top tips on how you can live with conscious intent so that you can live more, work less, and leave a living legacy by investing now. Listen to the show to discover the top tips on how to get started, make the most of your investment journey, and ultimately to be living your dream, not someone else's. More episodes can be found on iTunes or at bushymartin.com.au/get invested. Thanks for listening, and now let's get invested. Hi, freedom fighters. Do you want to live an amazing, fulfilling life? Do you and your life partner want to enjoy a happy and healthy relationship where you both get to do meaningful work and make a difference in the world while also spending quality time with your family? Do you want to be financially free and secure your family's future and enjoy the fulfillment that only comes from giving freely to others? Now, it all sounds so easy when you say it quickly like this, doesn't it? But how can you achieve and live the Holy Grail when you're constantly drowning in debt and despair, with no time to scratch yourself and no energy to do anything about it, even if you did? To pay for your increasingly expensive lifestyle that you and your family deserve, you're working countless hours and you feel stuck in an endless cycle of work and struggle. And everything else is suffering because you've got no spare time and no energy. Are you and your partner slowly and invisibly growing apart as underlying resentment, insecurity, guilt, financial stress, and feelings of overwhelm grow? Do you feel stressed, vulnerable, and overwhelmed with the responsibility of being the only breadwinner, and resent having to work all the time, and guilty about not spending enough quality time with your family? Or, if you're the full-time parent, do you feel guilty spending money? Do you feel vulnerable relying on your working partner for income? Do you harbour quiet resentment from giving up your career and losing your identity? And do you desperately want to go back to work, but feel guilty that you won't be a good parent if you do? And if you and your partner are both trying to work full-time, while still juggling the demands of bringing up your kids, are you both feeling traumatised and torn, trying to keep it all together? Do you feel overwhelmed and are increasingly arguing about money or the lack of it? Now, you may be surprised to hear that unfortunately, all of this is now pretty normal, even if it's not satisfactory nor acceptable. Why? Because the traditional life model that we've all been following just doesn't work. And the major reason is that our society has an almost singular focus on income instead of investment, on spending instead of saving, on work instead of wealth building. Now, in past Get Invested podcasts and in my book, The Freedom Formula, I've broken down what you need to do in order to invest in your future. But I've never before revealed how you can make the shift happen. So what's the answer? What if there's a new way of living and working that will enable you and your partner to have it all? A different way of approaching how you live life that will have profound impacts on your overall level of satisfaction and enjoyment. For the first time today, I'm going to share with you a new model for living. And like most good things, it's simple in concept, but challenging in execution. And the reason I know how effective and life-changing this can be is because it's the different way of living and working that my wife Sonya and I have adopted since we got together over 20 years ago. So, to reveal this unique model of living to you publicly for the very first time, as part of the Get Invested Summer Series, I'm going to replay the audio of the presentation I made at the recent Money Debate Summit, which was appropriately titled The Power of Two. And depending on your feedback, it's likely to form the basis of a TEDx talk I plan to give in the near future. So please email me on bushy@knowhowproperty.com.au with your feedback on whether you think the Power of Two life partnership model is an idea worth spreading. And if you'd like to investigate the Power of Two program opportunity that Sonya outlines at the end of today's episode, feel free to book yourself in for the next available session by going to knowhowproperty.com.au/blog/the power of two. That's the-power-of-2. Now just to repeat that, knowhowproperty.com.au/blog/the power of two. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy listening to my partner in all things Sonya and I with our thoughts on our game changer, the Power of Two.
Hi, it's Bushy Martin. I want to start by asking you a big question. The income from your job or your business stopped today. How long could you afford to maintain your current lifestyle? Days, weeks, months, years, forever? If you said less than 12 months, then your answer to sustainable lifestyle success lies in the power of two. But what does the power of two really mean? To look for clues, let's take a ride back through history. In the early 1900s, three athletes were about to change their destiny. They just didn't know it at the time. They were conservative and very modest Victorian times before automobiles and aeroplanes, where the average wage was just $5 a day for men and $5 a week for women. Women were to be seen but not heard, dressed from head to foot with only their faces showing. Now, against this backdrop, 6-day bike races arose as one of the most extreme sports in history, and they were places where fame and fortune were made. They were the gladiators of their time in the AFL of the era. Over 100,000 people would pack the Madison Square Gardens in New York to watch bike riders ride 24 hours a day for 6 days straight. The rider who completed the most laps won enormous prize money. 6-day bike races were brutal round-the-clock marathons, essentially wars of attrition, with riders pedalling as many miles as they possibly could within the full 144 hours of the 6-day week. They ate and drank on their wheels, they slept as little as 1 or 2 hours a day in the middle of the track, and by the 4th and 5th days, they became haggard-looking, hallucinating zombies. The steeply sloped Soup Bowl timber velodromes were extremely dangerous, and horrific crashes and broken bones were common. At the peak of the sport, riders were completing grueling distances of over 3,360 kilometres in the 6 days. That's more than the distance of the current Tour de France that spread over 21 days. Now, despite much opposition and criticism in those male-dominated times, Tilly the Terrible Swede Anderson quickly became the fastest-flying female champion of the world. At that time, bikes were considered the done thing for the ladies. Now, Tilly could sprint at nearly 50 kilometres an hour, and she threatened the men's records. She broke records for practically every distance from sprinting to endurance. She rode a half mile, or nearly 800 metres, in just 52 seconds. And she won 123 of all of her 130 races in her 7-year career. She lost just 7 races in that whole time. And the secret weapon was the support of her husband and shadow, Phil Sjoberg. He was her partner, her manager, and her trainer. Tilly did the work while Phil built their wealth and their income by negotiating prize payments and sponsorship deals. They were parallel partners. As a result, Tilly and Phil were making $6,000 a year, the equivalent of $180,000 a year in today's dollars. Their parallel partner worker and wealth builder winning combination has been dubbed the Tilly. Tilly became a household name and one of America's first great female athletes. Despite concerted efforts by the establishment to stop the sport and by reporters to belittle and objectify the women, Tilly forced turn-of-the-century America to rethink strongly held convictions about female frailty and competitive spirit, and she confronted conventions on women's dress. Competing in racing events wearing tight-fitting clothing considered very unladylike and quite shocking at the time, she's credited with using bicycling to help emancipate women and give women a new sense of freedom and self-reliance. Now, as crowds increased, as the speeds and crashes increased and the distances grew, the personal abuse and physical brutality experienced by the riders resulted in calls to ban and prohibit the sport. To overcome this and further extend records, two-man tag teams were first introduced at Madison Square Gardens so that riders could alternate who was racing and who was resting or recharging. During the main chase sprint sessions, both riders were on the track at the same time, taking in turns to race by hand-slinging each other back into action. The non-racing rider would circle the track slowly at the top of the banking until tagged by his partner and slung back in. This alternating tag team relay race became known as the Madison, and a shorter version still exists in professional cycling today. Now, where single lone riders have been travelling distances of 3,360 kilometres, the leading record-breaking pair of the two Aussie Alfs, Alf Gillette from Gippsland in Victoria and Alf Grenda from Tasmania, broke the world record in 1914 to ride 4,490 kilometres over the grueling 6 days. That's equivalent of riding from Perth to Cairns in under a week, and over 1,000 kilometres more than the 21-day Tour de France. The Aussie Alf's world record still stands today, would you believe? Now, Aussie Alf Gillette was hailed as the best and the highest paid rider of the sport. He was earning $1,000 US a day, the equivalent of $30,000 a day in today's dollars. It's estimated he earned more than $100,000 from cycling, the equivalent of $3 million in today's dollars, at a time when a manual worker brought home just $5 a day. So why were Tilly and the Aussie Alf successful and 95% of the others weren't? This is the power of two in action, the Tilly and the Madison, where two working together can endure far more, achieve far more, and go much further. Now, what's this got to do with you, your relationships, and your money, you're probably asking? Well, before I reveal this, let me relate my own experience, as the rider's journey mirrored my own in many ways. You see, over 25 years ago, my first wife and I felt we were enduring what felt like a 6-day race that went on relentlessly for 6 years. We were secretly drowning in the depths of despair. We both felt trapped riding on an endless treadmill and we couldn't see a way out. And with a mullet and Coke bottle glasses like the ones you're seeing on screen, you can probably understand why. Now, we've been doing everything we've been taught. I was pouring blood, sweat and tears into becoming a successful architect, designing buildings like the ones that are on this slide, while my wife gave up her career to raise our son. We were chasing the Australian dream. Our plan was to work hard, raise a good family, pay off our nice home, and then put money into super so that we could tick off our bucket list and start living when we retire. On the outside, we looked like we were living the dream. Our life looked amazing. But on the inside, we were dying. We were drowning in debt and despair. To pay for our increasingly expensive lifestyle, I was working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. I was stuck in this endless cycle of work and struggle, and everything else suffered. We grew apart as our resentment, insecurity, guilt, and financial stress and feelings of overwhelm just grew and grew. I felt stressed, vulnerable, and overwhelmed with the responsibility of being the only breadwinner. And I resented having to work all the time and guilty about not being able to spend time with my son. My wife felt guilty spending money. She felt vulnerable relying on me for income. She resented giving up her career and losing her identity. And she wanted to go back to work but felt guilty that she wouldn't be a good mother if she did. We were both overwhelmed and constantly argued about money. We actually felt a bit like the pair in the middle of this photo. We were not happy, Jan. Unfortunately, as a result, we ended up losing our marriage, our wealth, and our self-worth. We ended up burnt out, broken, and broke. We've never forgiven ourselves for the pain that we created for our son. I couldn't believe I ended up there in my mid-30s. And with 50% of first marriages failing and 60% of second marriages failing, and research confirming that apparently 60% of people in long-term relationships are unhappy, I was determined not to make the same mistakes again. Now, as you can't solve problems with the same thing that caused them, I started by investing in improving myself and how I needed to change. I read a lot of books, I did a lot of reflection, and I had lots of counselling to help reprogram my outlook on life and relationships. And then I was lucky enough to meet Sonya. For the first time in my life, I felt accepted for who I am, not for who I was supposed to be. Her unconditional love had a profound impact on restoring my self-acceptance, my self-worth, and my self-belief. We were both determined to do things differently. But like all of you, we wanted to live an amazing, fulfilling life. We wanted to have a happy and healthy relationship. We both wanted to enjoy meaningful work and make a difference in the world. We wanted to be financially free and secure our family's future and enjoy the fulfillment that only comes from giving freely to others. But how could we achieve all of this? And where do we need to start? Well, we realised we needed to invest in our knowledge. We started to read every book we could get our hands on across the full spectrum of self, health, wealth and relationships, and about how to achieve true sustainable success in every area of your life. We wanted to know what we needed to change and who we needed to become to enjoy successful, fulfilling lives together. We read about, studied and modelled other successful couples that we had admired and we respected, in the belief that if we could become like them, then we could achieve the same results that they do. Like Meryl Streep and her husband, sculptor partner Don Guma, who've now been together for over 42 years. And actors Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson, who've been together for over 35 years. And of course, Oprah Winfrey and best-selling author Stedman Graham, who are still happy after 34 years. We discovered that only 5% of couples enjoy enduring sustainable success. And what separates them from the rest is they think and act differently from everyone else in 3 key areas. First and foremost, the best focus on tomorrow. They start with the end in mind, with a commitment to a clear and detailed long-term vision of a shared future. And they roll the punches to make all this happen, so that they can enjoy today and don't let short-term issues get in the way. They know and accept that true sustainable success takes time, a minimum of 10, but more likely 20 years. So they embrace time as their friend, not their enemy. And this means that what they're doing today is always leading them towards where they want to be. Secondly, everything is about the collective, in we and us, not me, myself, or I. They have a true equal partnership, not just a relationship. There's no competition, just unconditional acceptance and celebration of their differences. And they communicate with brutal and total open honesty, no white lies or omissions. And they're not independent, they're interdependent, where they're actually mutually relying on each other while still maintaining their individual autonomy and identity. And they believe in synergy, where the whole is much greater than the sum of the parts, where 1 + 1 actually equals 11. And finally, the best focus on investing, not income. They create multiple streams of income that don't rely on their time. They don't work for money, they get money to work for them. They don't trade their time for money. Money's not actually important to them, but they realise that everything that's important needs money, like their time. And they continuously ask themselves a key question. What can we invest in today that's going to give us more together time tomorrow? Compare this to the rest, where 60% of women and 40% of men don't invest in anything outside of their superannuation. Now, armed with these golden seeds of sustainable success, we got to work. So one winter afternoon, we sat down over a good bottle of red wine by the fire in a cosy country restaurant, and we crystallised our shared vision of our ideal lifestyle in vivid detail. We wrote our diary of our ideal day, week, month and year, what we were doing, with who, where and when, covering all aspects of ourselves, our health, our wealth and what we'd achieved. Like living and working on a hillside rural retreat looking down the valley surrounded by our rescue dogs, and travelling the world for 3 months of the year. And our ultimate goal of creating our non-for-profit Golden Smiles that brings together rescue dogs with the forgotten old and lonely in our community to create companionship, hope and purpose, and a way of stopping abandoned pet euthanasia. We turned all of this into our vision board that you see here on screen, and we plastered it all over the house. We were excited, focused and motivated. This was our magnet and our compass. Then, with pen to paper, we monetised how much our dream life would cost each year, what we now call our freedom numbers. We needed $200,000 a year, but our super was only projected to give us about $20,000 a year when we tried to stop work. So to do this, we needed to create a nest egg of $4 million. We needed to get invested. We started by automating our money management and our savings, what we now call our kick-ass saver system that I detail in my book, The Freedom Formula. Now, around that time, my good father, Bushy Sonya, had his health collapse. He'd worked 7 days a week all of his life so that he could retire and start living. But he never got there. He always believed that you just needed to work really hard and she'll be right, mate. He totally ignored his health. He suffered bowel cancer, a series of strokes and a bunch of other complications. He spent the last 10 years of his life in a wheelchair, paralysed down one side, with mum as his nurse. And in his last days, I'll never forget him looking me in the eye and saying, "Son, learn from me. Stop following my example. Stop working for money and start getting your money to work for you." Now, these words really shook me to the core because Dad had always been my role model, and they became my mantra. Stop working for money and get money working for you. And then my second dad appeared. Sonia and I went to a Rich Dad, Poor Dad conference, and a light bulb went off. It was our Kiyosaki moment. He said, the moment you make passive income a part of your life will change. This totally resonated. We needed to get invested by creating an income that didn't rely on us, so we had the free time to really enjoy the life that we were dreaming of. We needed to shift our thinking beyond income to investment, beyond work to wealth. He showed us that getting invested in passive income growth assets like shares, property and business were the keys to sustainable success. He opened our eyes to the fact that over 73% of Aussies over the age of 65 who've relied on paying off their home loan, their super and their pension if they can get it, are currently surviving on an average of just $15,300 a year, according to the ABS. Now, that's just $295 a week. Now, I don't know about you, but that only just covers our grocery bill. Overnight, we started to see the world completely differently. We immediately became what I now call passive-aggressive. We became aggressive about investing in passive income. Everything we invested our time, energy and money in from that moment had to produce passive income that didn't rely on us to produce it. But how are we going to achieve this? We now knew that both of us working full-time in tandem was never going to get there. We'd be back on the never-ending infernal grind like an exercise bike on that 6-day ride, pedaling furiously but going nowhere. It might give us good income in the short term, but no time and no life. And we wouldn't have the time or energy to invest so that we could replace our active work income with passive investment income and get our time and our freedom back. So how could we do it differently? Well, this is where the power of two parallel partners emerged. We would run a 2-lane race. Sonya was earning a stable income running a recruitment company, so she kept working. Well, I gave up work to focus on investing in building wealth and spending time with my son, to recharge and reinvest, to make our money make more money. The worker and the wealth builder were born. We were doing the modern-day equivalent of the Tilly. Now, I started by trading shares to create the deposit on our first property, and we kept renting close to the city and bought investment properties further out that we could afford. Now, they were basically just money boxes in the shape of a house, and these are some of the photos on screen now. We were rent investors years before it was even a thing. However, I still wanted to maintain a career, and Sonya didn't want to burn herself out. We knew the next stage in our passive-aggressive vision was to build a saleable and scalable passive income business. So, it was time to play tag team relationship relay. I went back to work full-time consulting in government to maintain a steady income and cover our costs. And Sonya gave up work and had some time off before starting our property management business. Our tag team money medicine relationship relay had begun. And once we got the hang of it, we just kept doing the money medicine. Once our property management business was making money, this covered our costs so I could give up work, take some downtime, and then start our passive income mortgage broking business. And once the finance business was kicking goals, we sold the property management business so that Sonya could enjoy some well-earned time out. As we alternated through the money medicine, we kept investing in growth property to build our passive income portfolio. This combination of the Tilly morphing into the Madison has allowed our interdependent partnership to achieve our shared vision. So we both enjoy a rewarding relationship while both doing meaningful and fulfilling work. This is the power of two in action, where the Tilly and then the Madison have allowed us to enjoy the best of both worlds. And as our investments in passive income have grown over time, it's reduced our need to work, so that we have the time and the freedom to give back to others. Like my awesome mum, God bless her. 5 years ago, we got the call that Mum had been diagnosed with terminal stage 4 cancer and had less than a year to live. Mum was the most selfless person I've ever met. She'd spent her entire life giving freely to others. So I knew that it was my time to give back to her. I took that year off to be with Mum. Now, it was a living hell for her as cancer robbed her of her body, her mind and her soul. We cried, we laughed, we reminisced. We had all of the hard conversations. Nothing was left undone or unsaid. Mum's only remaining wish was to be able to die at home. So we stayed by her side around the clock in her dying days as she passed with dignity at home in her own bed. This photo is Mum and I making fun of her cancer caps. She always laughed at life no matter how tough things were. And while this was also the hardest year of my life, it was also the most fulfilling, as I learned what Mum had always known. The true fulfilment comes when you give freely to others without expecting anything in return. This was Mum's lasting legacy. But I was only able to do this because I had the freedom of time. Why? Because our income needs were met without needing us to generate them. This was the real benefit of getting invested and being passive-aggressive investors. You see, in the end, it's all about time. Today, Sonya and I live a really blessed lifestyle. We call it living by design. We choose if we want to work. We choose where and when we work. We love doing life in beautiful rural settings with our smiling Samoyed rescue dogs. And we get to travel and explore the world for up to 3 months a year. Not that we're doing much at the moment. And now we're on a mission to show you how to do the same. You see, we believe there's never been a better time nor a greater need to get invested. And anyone can do it. And we know that you can do it. It's why I've taken the time to write my books, Get Invested in the Freedom Formula, to give you the principles and the process that have allowed Sonya and I, along with 1,700 other hard-working Aussies that we've helped so far, to live more, work less, and live your legacy. It's why I host our Get Invested podcast, where we get to share and you can hear the success stories and lessons of other couples and individuals to get yourself a weekly injection of inspiration. Because we want you to keep imagining your ideal dream life, a world where you never have to worry about money again, a world where you have the time and the freedom to enjoy the fulfilment that only comes from giving freely to others. By getting invested in your version of the freedom formula, to be living by design, not by default. Because remember that what you think about and what you feel about is what you bring about. And all of this is possible using the power of two. So are you ready to tap the Tilly or manoeuvre the money Madison? Are you like Tilly and the two Aussie Alfs and are ready to change your destiny, to start the ride of your life? Even if you don't have a partner, then you can still utilise the power of two to make this happen. That's we, you and me. Because we know that's the only way you're going to be able to get invested, so that if your income from your job or your business stops tomorrow, you'll no longer have to worry, as you'll be able to maintain your lifestyle indefinitely. And in the spirit of the power of two, my awesome partner in all things, Sonya, is going to get you started. Now, quick heads up, Sonya's very shy and she shuns the limelight. So doing this video that you're about to watch has been a huge thing for her. While she feels a bit nervous, I think she's bloody awesome. So make sure you let her know about it if you get the chance. Now, over to you, Sonya, and the power of two. So just wait while I change screens here. I'm a bit of a beginner on Zoom.
Hey women of Australia, I'm going to help you create $20,000 in 12 months without you having to go back to work or increase your hours. My name's Sonya Martin. I do life and business with the legendary Bushy Martin, author of the Freedom Formula, one of Australia's top 10 property specialists, and most recently, he nailed Mentor of the Year 2019 by the Better Business Awards. Led by Bushy, we've helped thousands of Australian families, and throughout the years, I've discovered that there were so many women that did not feel confident or competent to even start to read the book. So I'm taking personal responsibility for helping women of Australia get the confidence and skills accelerating. So interestingly, I found one fundamental difference between the women who were empowered to get invested versus those that were not. And it came down to the power of two. So here I am. Here's how we, that would be me and you, to the power of two, are going to do this. I want you to join me in a live session where I go behind the scenes to eliminate fear on how all this financial stuff works without the jargon, and give you my uber cool tools that will blow your mind as to how simple it is to get invested. Heads up, this is a fast-paced, practical live session. I'm going to get real with you. In my world, if it's not practical, it just doesn't cut it. And it's a women's only forum. Sorry, not sorry, guys. As women, we often focus on the everyday needs of family and life and look at money in a very immediate way. There needs to be a shift with two people in any relationship. There is no letting yourself off the hook. A recent survey by the Australian Financial Attitudes and Behaviours Tracker 2017 found 46% of females dealing with money stressful and overwhelming. It's no doubt that financial tension has a direct impact on the longevity of relationships. The Greater Bank survey last year showed 42% of relationship breakdowns said finances were a contributing factor. Whilst that is staggering, it's also important to know as women we're not alone in feeling the underlying anxiety due to financial stress. And And let's not kid ourselves. This feeling has and will continue to have an ongoing effect on our future generations. It's inevitable. Whether we like it or not, we will pass on lower levels of financial confidence and understanding of investment concepts unless we're prepared to take responsibility and step into this space. I want Australian women to feel empowered. I want Australian women to get involved and take control of their financial future, to back themselves no matter what life throws at you. So by empowering ourselves, we empower the future women of Australia. Our live session has been specifically designed to solve your three biggest problems. First, we're going to eliminate fear and avoidance by equipping you with an understanding of finance. Right now, we're going to get rid of that ostrich with our head in the sand. Fear precedes avoidance. Knowledge engages action. The second thing we're going to look at is how do I start? Where do I find the information? How do I piece it all together? The final piece is how do I get my partner's confidence, help and buy-in? So to the power of two women of Australia, you've got this. Be the financial officer of your future self. Shift the balance to the power of two, now and for our next generation. Know that money matters, and the first step is to increase your family income by $20,000. In this live session, you'll walk away with a renewed level of financial confidence. It will strip away the anxiety and lack of value your inaction has previously embedded in your life. You will contribute financially to your family without altering your lifestyle. A weight will be lifted from your shoulders because you now have a clear conversation roadmap and a step-by-step plan of how to bring to life how you want your future self to look. With my beyond amazing Living by Design roadmap, hand on my heart, I guarantee this will become a daily staple in your life. It's addictive. And it's a brilliant open communication tool that will improve trust and confidence between you and your partner. And we're all about to the power of two. You will never again have to waste hours searching for any information pertaining to your life. It will become the holy grail, your treasured possession. You will store from Netflix passwords right through to complex flowcharts on how your finances are structured. Help me and other Australian women in spreading the message, I've got this. You will get our Conversation Starter Roadmap, our Living by Design Roadmap that walks you step by step in creating every single piece of information relating to your life in one virtual place. And you only need to spend 10 minutes a day for 30 days to wrap it all up into that one space. You'll get the Show Me the Money 6-step plan to fast track you to that elusive $20,000 in 12 months. By registering for the live session, you'll automatically receive our top 10 hacks on how to save tax. So just click on the button below. It will take you to my next live session. Fill in your name and email address. Check your inbox for that bonus, and I'll look forward to seeing you at our next live session. I'm Sonya Martin. Our business know-how is synonymous with lifestyle. We've helped thousands of Australian families to get invested and create a life by design, not default. I'm super passionate about taking it to another level for the women of Australia. Women, by nature, we nurture. Generationally, they're not programmed to feel good about wanting money. Let's channel our attention to nurture and move it to a money matters mindset. Making money work for me, not me work for it. Adopt money as another member of your family. Nurture, love, respect and invest in its future. Get invested. Money matters to the power of two.
Wow. Well, I don't know how you feel about that, but that pretty much blew me away. She rocks. There's no question about it. Now, in closing, guys, I just want to thank you and congratulate you on taking the time to get invested in yourself, your relationship, and your life. You're already in the ranks of the 5% just by taking this action. And Sonya and I and our family of freedom fighters at Know How are looking forward to joining you and us for a free chat by following the link that's now on screen. It's www.knowhowproperty.com.au/blog/the-power-of-two. And just quietly, if you're a bloke, don't worry, I'll look after you. Now remember, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Get invested. Money matters. The power of two. Thank you.
Well, freedom fighters, how good was that? To get a summary of all this investment gold in the show notes, just email me on hello@khgroup.com.au. It's HELLO@khgroup.com.au. Or check us out at www.bushymartin.com.au/get invested. I look forward to joining you next week for another episode of the Get Invested podcast. So thanks for listening, and as always, dream as if you'll live forever, and live as if you'll die